Hi, welcome back to Talk with TQ. I have a really great guest today. His name is Doug Snelson. Now, I don't have a lisp. It's Doug Snelson. That's S-N-E-L-S-O-N. He's a children's book author. I'll share with you that I met him probably about 6 years ago at a book fair in Manhattan, and I was representing a publisher who was representing me. We were representing each other. I met Doug, and I found out about his book, which was called Who's Got the Face. Since then, I've interviewed him about that book on my radio show that I used to have. But now that I'm here on TV with you, he has written another book, and it's called The Fable of a Snake Named Slim. I think that you wrote this because of your name being such a tongue twister itself. The Fable of a Snake Named Slim. It's about the subject of...
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, Tony. It's so
You're
good to see you.
welcome. You're welcome.
And, we've stayed in touch over the years.
We have.
And it's just so wonderful to see how, going to screamingwoman.com, and I see all the wonderful things that you're producing. And I know I'm not here for that, but still, it's wonderful to continue to be colleagues and from that perspective.
And collaborators, yes.
The Fable of the Snake Named Slim came about a couple of years ago when I started to think about an individual's gift. And that led, what causes a person to find that gift? And that led to a story about a snake who, through a very significant event, finds his gift. Now, Slim is a wobbler who wants to be a wiggler, and he has a lot of self-esteem problems. And so as I wrote the book, at the time I didn't realize it, but once the book was written and published, it had an element of anti-bullying characteristics. Yes. So I go to a lot of schools now and I read both books, but I specifically will read The Fable of the Snake Named Slim and address that topic to kindergartners, first graders, second graders, which is where the book is targeted for, without ever using the phrase bullying or anti-bullying.
Right. Yes, and I've read the book, and it does do it rather effectively. I'll say I'm not going to give away the ending, but it ends, well, you're going to read it for us at some point anyway, but it ends on such a positive note. And I remember looking at the illustrations in the book, which are done by Renee Snelson. Okay.
My daughter, yes.
Your daughter, yes. And I remember looking at it and saying, just the way she postured the characters, it just seems so appropriate, and I think second grade is perfect for this. And also it addresses a very, very popular topic right now, as we're trying to do something to stop this. The fact that you've targeted it for second grade, that's very significant to me. Tell me why you decided to do that.
Yes, well, as I got into it, what I've learned, and I would never say that I'm an expert on anti-bullying, but I could say that my heart and my mind and my soul has produced something that has touched people in that area, in areas of self-esteem and courage. And what has happened, what I've learned is that there are three areas of bullying that occur at very young ages. There is, of course, the physical aspect. Yes. Somebody hurting someone. There is the verbal aspect where children are saying bad things to other children that makes the other child feel bad. And then there is the psychological aspect. The psychological aspect is where I am, as a child, I'm left out of the peer group who I want to be part of. And Slim, who is again a wobbler who wants to be a wiggler, finds that he wants to be a wiggler. And he can't, because he wobbles. He can't move quick enough. So that's how the idea developed and how I communicate that in schools.
So he had to learn to accept himself for who he was, who he is.
That's right.
Right, as opposed to trying to be someone else.
That's correct.
That's a strong message for kids. What happens when you bring this book to schools?
Well, there's a few things that I do with this story. And first of all, I let the children know that the word fable, and there are very few books these days that have the word fable in them. Fable is, of course, it teaches a lesson. And usually a fable teaches a lesson that has an animal in it. In this case, it's a snake, and the name of the snake happens to be some. So the first thing I say to the children is, I want them to tell me what they think the lesson is. And at the very end, we talk about that, what it is that they got out of the book itself. Then the second thing that I tell the children is that I want to remember when you dedicate a book, and when you're talking to second graders, that's kind of a big word. So I say, I want to honor, remember, praise those individuals that helped me find my special gift, that helped me with my courage and my self-esteem, and those were my elementary school teachers. So I list all my elementary school teachers, nice. And I tell the children, that's why you have to, whatever grade you're in, and my kindergarten teacher, her name was Mrs. Everett. And my second grade teacher was Mrs. Kimbark, and on and on and on. Mm-hmm. So it creates awareness for the child as I move forward. Mm-hmm. And then I start with the book, which I will not read right now, but you have asked me to read later. I write in a rhyming format, mm-hmm. and rhyming format helps for retention. And I'm able also to use some key words that you can use in a framework and a discussion, mm-hmm. about anti-bullying. Would you like to see two or three of those words?
I would love to see that.
Well,
yes.
I want to get for Slim is Slim knows he's different, wants to be somebody else for now, and an event occurs where his friends are playing, and he realizes that, gee, I wish I could be up on that hill with them, but I can't. And so I want to read this paragraph, these few sentences here. One day on the hill, as they played on the side, Slim's friends admired their wiggles with pride. But with no wiggles to share and doubt as his guide, Slim wobbled away near a brown tree to hide. Turning back to laugh, Slim's friends seemed so snide. Slim was sure their intent was to chide. Now, those two words, snide and chide, one syllable, but very big words for a second grader. Yeah. And so chide, expressing some kind of disapproval. Mm-hmm. Snide, disappointment, egging people on. And what I try to tell the kids is that when you learn the exact meanings of words, you'll be able to identify what that other child is trying to say or do to you. And therefore, you can start to build the skills to react to that and know that what that child is doing, because I understand what chide means, mm-hmm. I understand what snide means, mm-hmm. I don't have to act on it. Right. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're actually teaching them to sort of read between the lines.
Yes.
With this, through their actions and whatever they might be saying, rather than just take everything for face value. But
yes.
Bullying is a big topic.
Yes.
So when you set out to write this book, I don't know if I asked you this question already. Did you set out to write a book about bullying, or did you set out to write a book, just write a fable?
I started out to write a fable. I wanted to write a book about courage, mm-hmm. and self-esteem.
Self-esteem.
And the first aspect, the first effect of a bullying behavior of one child onto another child, mm-hmm. is self-esteem. So that's how that evolved, that it affected them. In fact, there are a couple areas, mm-hmm. where bullying affects children. Mm-hmm. There's the bullier. Yeah. Who in effect is a victim, perhaps in a family environment. Yeah. There is the child that's being affected, mm-hmm. the victim, mm-hmm. but there are also the bully's assistants, maybe someone who is aggressively behaving and encouraging that bully to keep on doing what they're doing. Mm. And then there are those that are viewing the bullying behavior. It makes them feel bad as well. So everyone is affected in a bullying activity, especially when there are more than two children involved.
Yeah. So often bullying happens in sort of a group of kids will bully a kid.
Right.
At least that was my experience. It's not just one person on one person. It's usually, I find the bully has to have like a little strength in numbers. That's been my experience as I remember as a kid being bullied to an extent. They never do it alone.
Yes.
They usually do it with a couple of friends.
Yes.
Because then, the bully doesn't really have the guts, whatever.
Yes.
And
yes.
so in your book, is it sort of like a gang-related, not a gang, but
Yes, well, there are in this particular book, and you'll notice the way we created the character, Slim has angles, and that's what creates that makes him different.
Yes.
Whereas his friends, and there's a picture here, his friends look more like a traditional smooth and sleek.
Yeah.
And so it's ironic that Slim's name is Slim. His name is Slim.
Yeah.
Whereas his friends really are much more angular. And in this particular book, that group is maybe 4 or 5 snakes, and it could happen in the backyard. And they're garter snakes, and they're one of the things that we tried to do, which we do with all of our books, is we look for. If you look at the eyes, it's one of Renee's trademarks.
Right.
There's a sweetness and a kindness in the eyes. And that's something that I try to bring out to the children.
Yeah.
That, whether it be people or animals, we always want to treat them and look in their eyes and treat them with kindness.
Exactly, yeah. I think that this book about Slim is really good. I like that it's a fable and not actually people. Okay, because I think it takes, if a child is being bullied or if a child is the bully, it sort of takes them away from their own viewing condition, and it makes them think about the actual act itself as opposed to, well, what they look like, that's why they're being bullied. This is a snake.
Yes.
Yes. And I was very surprised when you first came out with this book. I'm like, he's writing a book about a snake?
Yes.
What's up with that? So when I read it, I kind of got it, but I was like, a snake? Really? Yes, it works. It does.
I've had a lot of people, parents, children that were afraid of snakes, then read this book or see the illustrations, and all of a sudden they're no longer afraid of snakes because of the nature of Slim, and actually the nature of Slim's friends as well.
It sort of takes away any bias you might have about a snake. I mean, I know people that can't even look at it. They couldn't look at this picture without like, oh my God, a snake.
Yes.
Because of as an adult, we know what a snake really represents. If you've ever gone to church or whatever, it sort of represents like the devil, but I don't think he represents the devil. I mean, look at those eyes, please.
That's right. And post reading the book, I will use open-ended questions, and I'll say, now, what do you think this book is about? So it's more about what's going on with the snakes, not necessarily what's going on with that individual.
Yeah.
But sometimes you'll hear a child talk, and you could almost sense that they're talking from their own experience.
Yeah.
You shouldn't treat, and they'll use the word, even though these are snakes, you shouldn't treat people bad.
Right. See?
And so it's brought out, in the discussion. Towards the end of the book, the real core message comes out, and when as you'll see, when I read the book, the message, I think, is fairly clear. So Slim helps his friends out, overcomes a situation, and now he feels good about himself. When Slim went outside the very next day, his friends asked him first to join in their play. Slim smiled widely, and now he knew why. His friends made him so happy he wanted to cry. In fact, there was no way around it. He could move boulders with unseen shoulders, and he could do it when it really counted. And that's the core. He could move boulders with unseen shoulders, and he could do it when it really counted. In the book, he moves a stone to help free his friends because they're caught. But I'll ask the children, do snakes have shoulders? they'll say, no. Well, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Well, children will say, well, maybe it's the heart. It's inside.
Yeah.
And so then we can have a discussion on character.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's about.
Yeah.
You can move boulders with unseen shoulders. You can make choices, positive choices for yourself. You can find your gift by taking actions that sometimes might be a little bit fearful for you, but you overcome them and you move forward. And that's what the book's about.
I like the metaphoric nature of this book because I think that what I see as an educator is that you're giving them the opportunity to learn the metaphor of certain things, this metaphor of what it is to be strong and brave and have shoulders that you can, I think that when people become older, some people still, I speak to people, students, they could be college students, they have trouble understanding a metaphor. This book is a really good sort of entree into understanding that kind of thinking. I think it also helps them engage in, I guess, their own childlike brand of critical thinking.
Yes.
And develop those skills.
Yes.
Now, I don't know that you actually consciously had these things in mind.
Yes.
But you've achieved it.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Most definitely.
It's been very gratifying that the response that I've received from the school systems and from the teachers and especially the young children, without, again, ever using the word bullying or anti-bullying anywhere in the book or anywhere in my discussion, but they understand that this is a book about self-esteem, courage, making right choices, and actually finding your own gift.
Yeah, finding your own gift is a very significant thing as well. Yes. I think sometimes that doesn't happen as a child. I'm wondering if it ever really does. I think everybody's different.
Yes.
But, again, a snake, and at first I was kind of like, why is it? So I had to read it again. I said, oh, I get it. I had to read it twice to understand why you wrote it about a snake. I thought maybe you would just I don't know what you were thinking.
Well, I can make it simpler.
Yeah.
I took a piece of paper. I once read where an author said, was asked, what inspires you to write things? Well, what inspires you to draw things or paint things? It could be anything.
Yeah.
In my case, I took a piece of paper and I wrote down dog, snake, cat, fish, bugs, and I said, I'm going to start writing stories about each one. So I have different stories in different stages right now with that list. It's kind of like a bucket list to finish all the animals and the insects.
And I think also the fact that it's a snake and it's snake, it kind of makes it sort of gender non-specific in a sense.
Yes.
Because if it's a cuddly little bunny rabbit, it's even though boys like bunny rabbits too.
Yes. Yes.
There's sort of a feminine bent to that because it's really easy to get close to. We don't hug snakes. We don't cuddle snakes.
That's right.
We rarely kiss snakes, although I've seen people kiss snakes. I've seen it. I have. That's a different show. But I'm just saying that, you made a snake into this cuddly sort of human type character.
Well, also too, what you're touching on is that bullying is non-gender specific.
It is.
It's non-race specific. It's non-economic specific. It's any socioeconomic business. People get older, being affected by bullying when they're younger. It affects so many people in so many areas, whether it be male or female. So there is, your point's very valid.
Yeah, I think also there is such a thing as adult bullying, which I'm disturbed very often. I see that.
Yes.
And I think that, I think if children have an understanding of the effect it has on them as the person being bullied or the person that's the bully, I think that maybe you could stop that kind of thing. We do see adult bullying. You see it in business sometimes, where people will do things just to sort of I guess, metaphorically stick the foot out just as they're about to walk by, so they fall.
Yes.
Yes. For just for the sake of having more money or, seeing someone else fail. I think it's a very sort of collective unconscious kind of thing.
Yes. Yes.
I'm wondering.
Well, I think we when, as any author would do, we submit our books to to different organizations to see what they think of them. And in the case of Slim, we were able to be recognized by the Mom's Choice Award, which was we were very, very pleased with.
That's a real honor.
As well as the pinnacle of the Gold Seal for the Pinnacle Achievement Award, and both in the area of early childhood development.
Yeah.
So when I go do reading programs in the tri-state area, it adds more credibility to my standing as an author with those particular school systems. So,
right. And I think that a lot of times people don't realize that, writing a children's book is complex. I mean, I think even though they're short and you're doing it in rhymes, of course, I can appreciate that. But a lot of people don't realize that it's about as complex, probably maybe more so, because you need to have mastered brevity and still be able to get this message out. It might be almost as complex as writing a novel. I'll give you that, because you did master brevity in both books.
Well, thank you for saying that. I do have an editor that I work very closely with who has given me outstanding advice. Her name is Kathy O'Hare, and she will comment. For example, the word chide and snide, the word chagrin, a very big word for children. And she said, no, put that in. It gives the teachers, and then the educators will say, yes, this gives the teacher an opportunity to bring a new concept into the discussion.
Right.
So every word, every comma, yes, is the rhythm is taken very seriously.
Well, I love your books, and I love the messages. Sitting here, I'm thinking, boy, I could see, because you write in rhymes, I could see maybe developing some musical song, some music to some of the words where kids could actually sing it. When you sing something, you have to, draw from within, you have to draw from your subconscious if you're going to be really good, like a really good singer.
Yes.
Because you do have to get down deep. I'm wondering if maybe Slim should have a song of his own.
I love that idea, and I've actually thought, that's interesting you say that. I actually thought of that. I think, I absolutely agree with that, because there is, and I don't sing, and I'm not a musician, but I would love to explore that with someone who knows music and team up, because the words are so much fun for me. That passion to put that down on paper is so much fun.
Yeah, you'll find your mantra in there. There's a mantra in there in the form of a song, I'm convinced. Yeah, and I've got some, I could present you with some people to write that for you, but I think that kids need a mantra.
Well, I'm very interested.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Doug. Doug Snelson, S-N-E-L-S-O-N, not to be confused with some other person, okay? Thank you so much for coming. You traveled far to come here, and I'm honored that you wanted to be on my show again.
Thank you so much. It's you write because you love to. We talked about this before. There's a great saying that Khalil Gibran wrote in The Prophet. He said, "Your work is your love made visible."
There you go.
And I see that in what you do, and hopefully that's what I'm trying to accomplish as well.
Yes, and you've definitely achieved that. Thank you again. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
You'll come back for sure.
There'll
be another book.
Thank you, Tony.
And thank you, my audience, for coming to the show again. I do appreciate it so much. And I know that people have been talking about the guests that have been on my show. And I hope you're talking about the guests, because they mean so much to me. And you, the audience, means a lot to me as well. So come back again, and I appreciate it. Have a really, really good day. Bye.
Snakes seem to glide, usually side to side, though this story is about what's within. So don't be surprised if I open your eyes to the fable of the snake named Slim. Slim was different and not like the others. All snakes are not the same. He tried to fit in, but to his chagrin, he was often kept out of their games. The difference with Slim, and you should take heed, was that Slim was a wobbler who didn't have speed. His friends were fast wigglers, and wobblers were odd. At least that's what Slim thought as he sat on the sod. Slim tried to move fast. His body went slow. He would shift left to right, then ahead. With each inch forward, his movement so awkward, It embarrassed him so. He turned red. One day on the hill, as they played on the side, Slim's friends admired their Wiggles with pride, but with no Wiggles to share, and doubt as his guide, Slim wobbled away near a brown tree to hide. Turning back to laugh, Slim's friends seemed so snide. Slim was sure their intent was to chide. Then, all of a sudden, as if pushed by a button, the hill grumbled, it shook and it rumbled, rocks crumbled, friends stumbled, the day had suddenly gone amuck. Just as quickly it halted, no one could be faulted, it was something you might call bad luck. Safe behind the tree, Slim looked out to see that his friends were trapped and were stuck. They tried hardest to wiggle and harder to wriggle from under the crumbles of rock. Slim saw the disaster. He wobbled much faster. He knew he was racing the clock. As Slim wobbled so near, he could feel all the fear, like a shower that's colder and colder. For on top of the pile, with a dawning profile, sat the most humongous boulder. Slim tried to wiggle the boulder loose, but that made no sense. He pushed the boulder, but that made him tense. He yelled and he screamed, and to Slim it just seemed that someone would come to his defense. But no one did. No one would help him move that big stone. His friends were in trouble, and he felt all alone. Slim gazed at the boulder. The sun dimmed and set. Nothing would help him as long as he fret. Then, like a flower that blooms in an hour, he felt a strange power deep in his heart. He knew that no wiggle, but only a wobble could break that big stone apart. So he wobbled to the left, and he wobbled to the right, and he wobbled and wobbled well into the night. He wobbled determined, and he wobbled with ease, and he calmed all his friends by the way he would breathe. For the first time ever, he breathed, oh so slowly. He felt he had purpose, and he didn't feel lowly. Just at that moment, the boulder did lift. Slim knew his wobble was really his gift. Then the boulder, it wobbled and started to fall. It rolled and it rolled down the hill like a ball. Slim's friends escaped and they wiggled with glee. They knew that Slim's wobble had set them free. On a day almost fateful, he saved friends who were grateful. Slim proudly thought, that's because of me. When Slim went outside the very next day, his friends asked him first to join in their play. Slim smiled widely, and now he knew why. His friends made him so happy he wanted to cry. In fact, there was no way around it. He could move boulders with unseen shoulders, and he could do it when it really counted. Let me tell you right now, as you go through your days, you will wobble and wiggle. You will move in straight lines and in bends. No matter the problems, you'll do good things to solve them, and always nearby you'll have friends. So smile at yourself when you push and use push, and it seems like no end is in sight. Just think of Slim and the gift of the wobbler, and when you sleep, you will glide through the night.
That's beautiful.